So, what are the top 10 bad and ugly truths about being an entrepreneur? So, today we're going to talk about that and how to be on the lookout to avoid this pitfall. So, my name is Peggy Van de Plassche. I'm the founder of the Microdose Diet. So, I wrote a book. I launched a couple of products, microdosing with psychedelic, without psychedelic. So, that's my bread and butter. I've been an entrepreneur for a few years actually, and it's very interesting to see the number of bait and switch, but also how people react to you, your friends, your contacts, and also what you discover. So I usually write more about things related to microdosing, healthcare, even if I used to be a VC, so I know entrepreneurship pretty well. But this time I wanted to explain a bit more about my experience in a funny way, but also in a way that hopefully is going to resonate with you and hopefully that's going to put you again on the lookout, not just as an entrepreneur, actually, as a human being, as an executive, as a professional, even if you're not a professional, actually. So the first experience I want to talk about is what I called, is it a good product? So imagine you're me, you're going to meet a friend for a coffee, or you're just going to your hairdresser, whatever, and you barely sit down, and people who know very well what you do for a living, they know you're selling products, they know you're selling a book, and barely I'm sitting, they kind of jump on me and ask me if the product they bought at a competitor is a good product, if the formula is right, if it's, the best protocol to follow. And I'm really not joking. So people know exactly what I'm selling, a competitor, a product, and they're asking me my opinion on what they bought. So I have to say that unfortunately, I don't always push back. I guess the right answer would be that it's very rude and impolite, but unfortunately, we live in a society and we don't always say everything we think. And the beauty is that in 100% of the case, they come, they take the phone if they had not taken the bottle of the products with them. And now I'm supposed to go through the website and to tell them if the quality of the product is good. And guess what? You bought that product versus my product because they're cheaper. That's the reality. So you know that my products are, organic, they're premium, it's done with a clinic in BC, but you decided to buy a random product online because you can save 15 bucks. And to add insult to injury, you're on top of that asking me for my opinion. So, the reality is, well, you can buy tomatoes that are grown organically at the farmer's market, or you can buy tomatoes in a can at a dollar store. Still tomatoes, obviously it's not the same quality. Well, it's the same for mushrooms. So obviously, if someone is buying a cheap product, well, there is a reason it's cheap. Usually that means the quality is not as high. But nonetheless, people feel very comfortable asking me my opinion on a competitor product. Then, because it's not enough to ask me about the quality of their product, they're going to ask me about the formulation. And if they hesitated between several products, if their husband or wife is taking a different product, I'm supposed to review all the formulation and give my opinion on what is the best and tell them if I believe it's a good and balanced formulation. And then, because it's not enough, obviously, you really need to rub my nose into it. Then they're going to ask me, well, what is the best protocol to follow? Is it every day, every other day, every 3 day, da 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 da? How many times they should take it, which quantity, and so on. And now I'm like, okay, so you're buying one of my competitors' product, which is fine. That's your business. Maybe it will be full of tact, not maybe to rub my nose in it, but whatever. But on top of that, you're asking me about, is it a quality product? What is the formulation? What is the protocol? Well, guess what? Contact them and ask them about that. Don't ask me about it. So I have to say I've obliged in the past. Now I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe next time I will answer. Well, actually, there was a recall on that product because some fentanyl was found in it. And here goes your $15 saving. So at least it would give me a good laugh. So that's the number one of the ugly truth of being an entrepreneur. People don't really tiptoe around your feeling. Let's put it that way. The second, I call it I bought it. And you know, people don't owe me anything. They buy my products, they don't buy my products. Obviously, that's their choice. Again, I would rather not have my nose rubbed in it, but they do what they want. But the thing that's always funny is that you always end up with people also telling you about how competitive the space is, talking about the competitors, or maybe other competitors go well. And I just find it interesting because my approach is more about, okay, let's be polite and don't discuss, at length this type of sensitive topics. Like I'm not gonna talk to someone we work in technology that, oh my God, all technology firms are firing people. I'm not gonna say to an exec at a bank that the share price of his bank has been falling. I'm not gonna say to a fintech entrepreneur that it's impossible to fundraise as a fintech entrepreneur today. Like I think it's just a delicate approach to things, which I would really like if people could actually do the same to me. And maybe you're living that every day where you're being very considerate to others and they just walk all over your face. So, um, and it's very interesting when you become more visible, because being an entrepreneur, it is about being visible. And I wrote a book, as I mentioned. And so one night, one of my friend, but I guess frenemy is probably more the word, is telling me, your next book will be great. And I'm like, well, I think this one is pretty great already. At least that's what Harvard Business Review wrote when they reviewed my book. And by the way, how good was your last book? Oh, you've never written anything. Here we go. So it's interesting, but really like La Palme d'Or is going to people who tell me unprompted. Obviously, I don't ask people if they buy my products, obviously um, telling me unprompted that they bought one of my microdosing product, whether the one with psychedelic, whether the one without psychedelic, when actually they didn't. And there is something that's very weird, but it's called a CRM system. And even if I don't spend my day checking my customer list, I'm pretty sure I would have noticed if some friends who tell me about the product would be on that list. So and it's not prompted. I just don't know why people people tell me that. And it's the same thing with the book. I have people who are actually pretending they bought the book, which is, let's be honest, $25 Canadian or $18 US, and which is impossible to track because people buy on Amazon. You don't have a name, you barely have a number actually. But like you don't have to be a mind reader anyway to know if the person in front of you is really skating around the topic and if they really bought the book. And I don't care. Buy my book. Don't buy my book. I don't care. But don't lie about it. Please, it's pathetic. It's unnecessary. You don't like to lie about buying my product. And if for whatever reason you have my book and you don't want to write a book review because it's a book on psychedelic, it's about personal development, professional development, using microdosing psychedelics. And I understand someone is very frightened, maybe their neighbor, their mother, their esthetician who's waxing them every month might think they're interested in psychedelics, and God knows what could happen. But they have no issue posting about Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, or sharing the last Uberman's podcast on psychedelic. But that's different. That is very different because these guys are widely successful. Um, so it's not the same. It looks like you're open-minded, you're au courant. very different than supporting me with a first-time author. So that the second ugly truth, the I bought it. The third one, and maybe you can relate to that to some degree, is the what do you think? And it is a bit of a variant of is it a good product? The scenario you might have lived as well in your life with some friends or friendly contact who confuse a coffee catch up with free coaching or mastermind. So, my dream, and I know I'm really pushing it, is meeting a friend, asking them how they're doing, having my friend asking me how I'm doing and actually seeming to care about it. And then we have a conversation about, I don't know, travels, books, movies, like that type of normal conversation. Instead, 95% of the time, I end up with let's grab a coffee, or rather, let's grab lunch so we have plenty of time to talk, which is basically people vomiting their problems all over me and expecting me to give them a free coaching session because I'm a coach as well. So not only I'm supposed to tell them how to use competitor microdosing product, but I'm also supposed to coach them for free well, I'm expecting to have just a nice lunch with a friend who might even ask me, oh, my vacation went. I don't know. Who knows? Like I know it's very wild. So, and I'm not talking about your friend who's like once in a while having a problem, they need space to talk about. No, no, I'm talking about people who have actually planned ahead to corner you in order to take an hour, 2 hours of your time for free to give them a coaching. Has nothing to do with a catch up. It just have to do with, give me free guidance. So and that's a dynamic I have experienced a lot before already when I was in financial services. And I was a venture capitalist at the time. I was a bank executive. I did a bunch of stuff. I managed a family office. And then I would have a lot of entrepreneurs who would ask me for my time, for my advice, for my connection. And then after a while, when I started talking, okay, let's put an advisory agreement because it seems like you're asking for a lot. Oh my God, they would be outraged that I would even think that I could be paid for my services. So basically, their expectation was I spend my time and my network and what it took me 20 years to learn so they can increase the value of their company, but for free. Doesn't really seem fair to me, but anyway, visibly it was very shocking to them that it was supposed to be an exchange, and that happens in every industry. I mean, you hear horror stories of dentists or dermatologists going to parties and ended up having to give a free consult on the spot. So imagine what information they are getting in the middle of a party where they just thought that, oh my God, it's a holiday party with neighbors and friends. So I find it very, very interesting as a human behavior. And I obviously know many people who do that once I know well enough. And I ask him, I say, what about this idea of, like free stuff mindset? And the thing was, it didn't tell me that it's because, well, some people really love to share. Some people, you will eventually hire them as advisor and you're working with them for free at the beginning to test them, whatever. No, 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 no. The rationale was, well, some people, they don't dare to say no. So it's worth asking. So it is a really predatory mindset in terms of you're not going to dare saying no. So I'm going to ask you, even if I know it is not fair. And that I thought was really not surprising, quite disgusting. I find that a lot of the people I dealt with, yes, I met people like that, but a lot of them, it's more like totally self-centered, totally unaware. Honestly, you would leave a conversation with them after 90 minutes and ask them, what did we talk about? Write it down and try to show them to which extent they only talked about themselves. They didn't ask you for one thing. I think they'd be surprised. That's all totally unaware they are. But what is very funny is that after all these conversations, I have so much information and some of them that I shouldn't know. I'm like, oh, maybe I should start a little side hustle, blackmail and extortion. So, next time you're facing someone like that, think that maybe there is finally a way to actually monetize your time and your advice. So the fourth bad and ugly truth, I call it, oh, you don't want to meet with them. So I had this very funny example that happened to me recently, but again, it's more of a pattern. So I was asked by someone I barely know to meet someone they barely know, and that request was made by email. And the goal was for me to explain to that second level person how to start and grow a competing business to mine. I'm not joking. Someone I barely know asked me to meet someone they barely knew to train them to become my competitor. And, you know, it was very hard, but I did turn it down. It was a very expensive and gratifying opportunity, but I still chose to turn it down, because you can see that for me, there was a lot of upside, obviously. And the person who asked me actually was hurt. Apparently, they had already committed to that person they barely knew, that the person they barely knew themselves would actually take upon her time and insight to train you to become a competitor. And you're just like, okay, what world am I living on? And like, it's not a millennial, it's not a Gen Z. That was a good old Gen Xer. So you cannot say, well, it's innocence, lack of experience, lack of life context. It was someone in their 50s. And I don't know that person well enough to know if it was entitlement, stupidity, pure naivety. But either way, I was not impressed. And I'm still baffled by someone being comfortable offering that value proposition and being displeased at my boundaries. And I have to say, I am so happy I microdose psychedelic and non-psychedelic because that has really helped me with strengthening my boundaries. And in the past, zero doubt I would have said yes, even if I would thought, are you fucking with me? Because I could not say no. And now I'm thinking, okay, I need to have some great opportunities like that in my back pocket because when someone come up with an offer that is highly unreasonable, that would will be great. I could answer with something highly unreasonable as well. Maybe that will wake them up. And who knows, maybe they're going to say yes. Maybe they're going to be afraid to say no. So anyway, that was number four. Number five, we don't know each other, do we? Or I owe you. So I combine two in the same because, well, otherwise it's never ending. When you're an entrepreneur or just a human, so many opportunities actually to have a bad and ugly experience. So I have to say it's been quite enlightening for me to see friends ask me to not tag them on my content and to never refer to them anywhere, anytime, forever. Until obviously, I have no doubt, I get very successful, and then it's going to be please tag me on everything, everywhere, all at once. So no doubt that when I'll be a Poland or Uberman, no one would mind if I tag them. No one would mind if I refer to them. But what is very interesting is that these same friends who don't want me to tag them, they have no issue remembering my contact information when they need an introduction, information, coaching, which means, ad lib morning very much. And I thought very interesting that approach. And I'm always wondering, okay, what do people to be so self-unaware? Again, Microdose, because whether it's going to strengthen your boundaries, it's going to also maybe open your mind if you think you might be one of these offenders. Because if you are, and I'm sure some of you who are listening might be in this situation, it's time to realize that it's not cool. The other thing that I have encountered, which is very interesting, is the friend buying your $25 books in Canadian, 18 in US, and they expect lifelong devotion and a lap dance. Like for context, over the years, I've likely picked up checks for a very nice multiple of 18 or $25. I'm thinking about someone in particular where I'm pretty sure I'm $1,000, if not 2,000 in the positive for me. And the fact that she bought a $25 bucks book is like, wow, I should be, like dancing and moving. And I also have these people who, I'm not joking, who are saying how much they supported me in my journey. And these are people who might have asked me twice in 18 months how my book was doing, while obviously mourning about their whole life the entire time. And I'm like, okay, microdosing for everyone, maybe like, and that's something I've seen in other circumstances, like executive. And as I said, I was in bank technology, so I've seen that with bank exec, tech exec, when they found themselves jobless and they don't have anything to offer anymore. Like they don't have career favors to give. They don't have money to allocate. Obviously, there is no budget to allocate. There is no job. They are not a powerful last name to drop anymore. They might not even have a cottage to share anymore. And so suddenly, like, no one is very interested in them anymore. Like there is not a lot of comment on their post. There is not a lot of love. And I always find it very, very funny to see that when they're back in a powerful job, if they're able to do that, suddenly everyone goes back. And, that is the beauty, is also being able to see all of that and think, okay, do I continue seeing these people? For me, most of these people I don't see anymore because they showed their true color. And it's not because they didn't buy my $25 books on which I probably make $2, let's be honest, or my products on which I make very low margin because I don't want to sell them too expensive. It's not that. It's really the idea of, oh wow, that's who you are as a human being. Well, I don't think it's what I want to be around anymore. Um, I have another experience, which maybe you've seen as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, or maybe in your daily life. Again, a lot of what I'm talking, it's human relationship. And I call it, I will take your firstborn with that. And I think you know where it's going. And, bait and switch, I realize that in the last couple of years is extremely strong for solopreneur and early stage entrepreneur. Because, they're probably seen as vulnerable targets, like you're upgrading your identity, you're trying something new, you probably don't have traction, financially you're drained. So, you're probably in a position of weakness compared to a successful long-term entrepreneur or just an executive or a professional with a regular job. And what I see is that you have entire businesses that are built on this idea that maybe the entrepreneur will get confused and say yes, maybe they're going to be afraid to say no, and at the end of the day, they end up with a short end of the stick. And I have to say, for me, and I had several experience like that, many experience like that, especially in the marketing PR space. I think that's really an interesting space. I actually did a podcast on that in the past, so you can check it out if you're interested. But for me, the other palm was with a real estate company that had an event space, kind of. in my neighborhood. So I was referred to them by someone I knew. And it started very well. We have a conversation, lovely ladies, and we agree that, okay, I will give a talk on microdosing to their community. They will promote it to their large network. As I said, it's a real estate group, real estate agency. They sell houses to people. So they have a very large email list. And they would host the guests in this event space with a wine and cheese, and we will ask for a $20 cover, to make sure that people who register come, also to have a bit of, a cover fee to make sure it's not just like random people coming for the wine and cheese, and also to cover their fee. And for me, that means that I would give a talk. They also had, as I say, a very nice room. They had AV, and they also had a tech person. So, as I said, my book was not out yet at the time. I didn't have product to sell, so I would speak and explain what microdosing is. So between the moment we got that verbal agreement on how we will frame it and 3 weeks later, the event turned into I have to promote it to my community. They refused to contact their clients. What they were offering now was to put it as a free event, so no cover fee anymore on Eventbrite, sorry, meaning that every randos would come for a free wine and cheese talking about microdosing. So definitely not their target market, my target market either. And they were generously posting it on their social media of their new event, which at the time had less than 100 followers. And if it was not enough, which I thought was already enough, they asked me to actually buy the plug to connect their AV to my computer because I don't have a Mac, and visibly every speaker coming to their event, it was a new event space, has a Mac. So basically I was supposed to buy the plug, and I was supposed to come the day before the event to set up all the tech because suddenly the tech person wasn't there. So I was supposed to do the testing and the setting up. So it was a bit of a whiplash. I'm not gonna lie to you. And when I pushed back and mentioned, that's definitely not what we agreed upon, if he started getting angry. And that's when we decided to part ways because I was not going to accept that. And I'm not gonna lie, for a few days I was obviously questioning myself. I'm like, okay, well, wasn't it clear? Communication is not always, crystal clear, but I mean, like, from going to access their client base, charge a cover fee, leverage their tech person, to I bring the audience, I manage the talk, I deal with the AV. I mean, that was quite a big of lost in translation. Like, lost in translation from my perspective, it's like, okay, you misunderstand 50% that is good for you and 50% that is bad for you. It's not 100% in one direction or another. Otherwise, it starts smelling a rat. But again, that's what I learned being an entrepreneur is that, and it's the principle of bait and switch. People try, and it is your job as an entrepreneur to spot it and to say no. That's why you need to be very well aware and you need to have strong boundaries. And on the other end, it's not always a bait and switch. I mean, I would say a purposeful bait and switch sometimes, which I think happened in that case. People commit to something that they didn't have the power to commit to. And when they came back to the powers that be, and you see that a lot in large organizations, it was not necessarily a large organization, but you see that when there is a hierarchy, they're told no. And that's when they're trying to kind of bully you in accepting a deal that doesn't make sense for you. And instead of coming back and saying, well, listen, I'm not allowed to give you that. I misspoke. I should have checked before. And maybe we would have found something, maybe we would not have. But pretending that we I misunderstood, that's a different thing. So that is something you really, really need to be on the lookout for. And I don't want to say if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, because that's very cynical and it's not true. Because the deal we had originally was a deal that was good for both of us. But, whatever, they decided to go another route. So another very interesting experience you might have is the golden partnership opportunity. So in 2024, before I launched my first product, the microdosing product, the brand Power Microdose with psychedelic, which is worth every penny. I want you to understand it is worth every penny. If you want to have a discount on the product, go ahead. But you might not have the same, not only guidance, but also the same quality of product. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Reference to the first comment here. So when I was again a year and a half ago, before I had this new product, I was offered a marvelous partnership opportunity by a serial entrepreneur. And that guy, he had been introduced to me by actually two people at the same time, and he seemed really legit. And he got interested in my business right away. He was already in the space. He really wanted to double down, so he was very interested. And at the time, I was just playing with this idea of launching my own microdosing product. I was still hesitating. Obviously, the fact that it's not legal everywhere was a bit of a, but I had so much request that I was like, okay, well, let's do it. And so that guy, that serial entrepreneur, introduced me to his business partner and loved the business partner, super kind guy. You could see like very ethical, very professional, the type of people I like to work with. No false promises, on the contrary, way more, on under promise, over deliver, that type of guy. So we discussed the option of working together on the product, and it was a very easy process. They have a clinic in British Columbia. He has developed hundreds of products for like 2 or 3 decades, and he knows all white label kind of work. So it was very easy. So after that conversation, I was like, oh well, maybe I should do it. It seems like an easy process. Again, I was grappling with the illegal aspect of it, but I was like, why not? So a week later, this serial entrepreneur reached out to me, and he had left the partnership with the gentleman I liked very much. Um, the way he made it look was very sudden, but actually, I don't think it was that sudden. But anyway, and he wanted to work with me. And, the first red flag for me was actually when he started criticizing his former business partner. Because from my perspective, it's a big no-no, like disparaging others, especially to someone you don't know, is not great, but especially not to their professional network, nonetheless, I let it play out. I heard him out. He wanted us to develop that new product together under my brand, But here was this golden opportunity. I would bring the brand, I would bring the protocol, I would bring the content, I would bring the audience. Eventually, I would bring the book when it was going to be published a few months after that. And basically, it would bring a fraction that a simple partnership agreement would get me for 50% of the business. Yes. Uh, Obviously, that was not very appealing to me. And honestly, who could it have been? And I mean, he is not a dumb guy. He knew exactly that whether I was signing a turnkey with his former business partner, which is obviously I still own all of my business. We're partner, but we're not business partner. It's that type of agreement. Or, he's offering me that random thing. So, I mean, he obviously knew it was not making any sense. But rather than, bowing out gracefully, the guy pressured me in accepting a deal that was absolutely not making any fucking sense for me. And when I said no, he was super displeased. The guy like kind of half guilt tripped me. And like, what on earth? You knew that it doesn't make any sense for me, but you're still going there? And then I was like, okay, I remember he had told me that he wanted to learn more about the space because he wanted to go in that direction with his wife. And basically, he wanted to learn the business on my dime, no matter how detrimental it was to me, because you know what? If I had said yes, too bad for me. That's my problem. And in the meantime, I was also speaking with another company because I wanted to compare the quote. And it was not ideal, but still better than that random deal where I had to give everything and my firstborn. And I waited weeks for their proposal with back and forth, me re-explaining what I'd explained already on the call 3 times, whatever. Finally, they came back with a quote which was not even aligned with what we had discussed. By the time, I was like, okay, forget about it. So I obviously closed the loop with them, saying thank you, da da da, I'm going in another direction. Crickets. Guys never even came back to me to say, well, thank you, Dada, if you want to stay in touch. No, fuck you. Totally ghosted me. And I was just like, okay, so that's interesting. So what did we learn here? So don't expect rational people to shy away from offering you widely one-sided deal. Like expecting you're dealing with ethical people, and maybe it's me who's like naive or too ethical, but expecting the person in front of you cares about you and is fair. I learned that again, definitely not the case. Second, don't um, expect them that they will not pressure you into accepting the deal. So even if they know that deal is very one-sided, very detrimental to you, on top of that, they're going to offer you and pressure you into accepting it. And then when you decline, don't expect anyone to be polite. I mean, I had that experience with several service provider because I always ask for free quotes to know the difference. Every time I close back the loop with the 2 people I don't select, I would say 95% of the case. And the worst thing is that not only do I decline very professionally, I also give them the reason because I'm like, well, at least that could help them in their business. No one is even answering to me. I'm just like, okay, I took time to give you an answer. Can you just at least answer thanks? It's just like, what the fuck? So anyway, again, I've never been for ghosting, you know, people in general, especially not business contacts. But I'm starting to understand why people do that because it's a great way to avoid, difficult explanations with difficult people. So again, something to be on the lookout. If something doesn't make sense, it's because it doesn't make sense. People have no shame offering you something that doesn't make sense to you. It's for me, that was a big eye opener. I was always trying to figure out, okay, there must be something I'm not understanding. Well, I'm not understanding that people don't give a fuck about me. So the next section is a section that is true for an entrepreneur, professional, someone not working, anyway. And I called it, What the fuck is she doing? And that's one thing about city. I live in Toronto, but I know New York City. I know San Francisco, London, Paris, like all these big cities, they're all big villages. Everyone knows everyone and people talk. And unfortunately, they don't talk about, again, books, travels, exhibits, ideas. They're talking about other people because there is nothing that is more bonding than a good pitching session, let's be honest. And again, in the cities, everyone knows everyone and people talk. So obviously, things leak eventually. I mean, of course. So the friend, the friendly contact, anyway, the person who was bitching about my business to another friend, another contact, he or she will eventually get ratted out, grassed out, outed, call it the way you want, whether it's on purpose or not. Someone's gonna kind of spill the bin. And and let's be honest, I really don't need to learn who said what to whom to know what's going on behind my back. I just have to listen to people when they're with me. If they're constantly bitching over people, well, guess what? They're gonna bitch me when it's my turn. I mean, it's just the nature of things. And if you're bitching people behind your back, well, guess what? People do the same to you. So if and that is, I would say, the basic thing. After you have a more sophisticated backstabber. So they won't necessarily criticize anyone outright because they want to stay in a position where they can claim deniability. Instead, they will be a bit more subtle. They will hint or they will ask innocent questions to bait you. It's a bit like mean girls. And they want you to show your cards because also, well, that means they hold something against you, like a bit the blackmail I was talking about. So if you take the bait, all bets are off. And on top of that, if alcohol is involved, well, the party has started. So I really don't mind people not liking my business, not liking me, not liking my independence, not liking my straight talk. I get it. I don't care. That's their choice. And I would probably not really like these people either. So it doesn't matter. But I think there are better topic of conversation than talking about my business and my career. And so a couple of months ago, I had a chat with actually someone I realize is a frequent flyer in this edition. It was not very subtle, and he very quickly ratted out a common friend for criticizing my work. And again, I already well enough these two people to know that when they were getting together, they were bitching me. Like absolutely no doubt there. And it would not be an issue because I know people, they want to bitch, that's their problem, da 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 da. But every time I saw them, they were glorifying or they were supporting my business. And that's the thing that I'm like, okay, well, it's not necessary. You don't care about my business. You don't owe me anything, even if you're a family member, even if you're a friend. But don't say you're supporting my business with stupid little stories about, oh my God, oh amazing. You mentioned my book to one of your friends on a call. While actually you're actively, undermining me with my friends and my business contact, like I just don't get it. So, and that's the thing you need to understand. Many people have insecurities. Many people are just not happy with their life. And so bitching overs is the way to go. So if as an entrepreneur you have no choice. You're putting yourself out there. That's the name of the game, which also means you need to be prepared for rejection and rejection big time. And that's something that unfortunately you're going to have to deal with. Another good opportunity to see the ugly truth is, I call it, be a guest on my podcast. And, you cannot read an article or, whatever without being told that as a business to be successful, you need an online presence. From podcast to social media, it's impossible to succeed without followers. At least that's what we're constantly told, mainly by social media companies, podcasts, whatever, follow the money. And so knowing that you have entire companies that have been banking on this insecurity from entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs who are starting, because they feel that, okay, if I don't have a sizable following, I'm fucked. Like I need that. So that's where the free for all has started because, these companies are like sharks in the water smelling the blood. They smell, the vulnerability in the fear in the entrepreneur. And I've been offered amazing opportunities, and I'm air quoting and joking, to be interviewed on podcasts, on TV shows, on magazine for amounts ranging from $200 to 10 grand. I'm not joking. And there is actually an entire industry that is catering solely to authors. And so if you're putting on your LinkedIn that you're an author, which For many people, that also means they might have, if it's nonfiction, they have a business and it's a book that is aligned with their business. You are sold the idea that the only way to succeed is to have dozens of Amazon reviews, but you are a category bestseller on Amazon as well. And of course, that you need to reach the grail of being on an influencer book club list or bestseller list, which is wonderful because everything is for sale. So if you're an author, whether self-published or traditionally published, you can pay. I didn't try it, so I'm not sure how much is that. Actually, in my newsletter, I put the link to a Forbes article, but you can pay to guarantee a spot on a bestseller list. I think to be on the Wall Street Journal is 70 grand, 70 grand. You can also buy book reviews. So first, all of what you're saying is fake in the sense that, okay, the book that you're seeing that are on top of the list, yes, some people, I'm sure if you're Michelle Obama, like you definitely don't need to buy your position on the list. If you're me, you're gonna have to buy your position. So it is a trick. Entrepreneurs are tricked, authors are tricked into believing they need to have followers. They need to be seen in whatever list. They need to be on that magazine, that interview, but they're supposed to pay for all of that. Of course, there are some organic interviews, but most of what is sold to entrepreneur is pay to play. And it's really something that I thought was eye-opener. I mean, the other great bait and switch is the podcaster who, after you spend 45 to 60 minutes being interviewed, tries to sell you their marketing package to upgrade, their mastermind, their directory, their advisory services, and so on. And when you decline this great opportunity, well, your episode end up being lost. And you just wasted 60, 90, 2 hours of your time and absolutely hope in human nature as well. So again, all this thing that is selling attention. So first, this idea that, okay, you need to be everywhere to be successful. I think it's bullshit. But also every company that is guaranteeing selling whatever, it is, I would say, a lot of that a bait and switch because most of them, one, can't deliver, and second, it's really acting on your insecurities. So I would say it has gotten so bad that podcasters like me, when I reached out to someone to be my guest, people are absolutely paranoid. They think that I'm going to ask them for money. They think that they're going to have to upgrade, da, 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 da. And I remember once I was supposed to be interviewed for that podcast. And as I log in, I have to download a platform and put my credit card number for the free trial. So actually, the podcast was run by a company that was providing software to support podcast recording. And they were kind of fake interviewing people in order to actually make you sign on to their platform. It was another version of a sales call. So the podcasting had become a sales call from the host to the guest. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about that. And there as well, a lot of lies around, the downloads, the this, the that, and same thing, social media, you can buy all your followers, like all of that is bullshit, let's be honest. So, and if you're interested in this topic, I recorded another a video and I also have it on my Substack and I call it Free Marketing Truth from starting a platform from the ground up. So you'll see my experience with PR and all that great stuff. Because, conversion rates tend to be very low, negative ROI, like it's very bad. The last one of this ugly and bad truth as an entrepreneur, I call gimme, 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 gimme more. And it's not lost on me that it's the last one, but maybe it should be the first one, doesn't really matter. And it's about people don't have to be friends. They might be friends. They might be friendly contact. They might be random. Who wants free products, free books, free anything, and are not afraid to ask for it directly. I mean, they don't even ask if there is a friend and family price, which I don't do. Some people do. I don't. I just find it silly. Um, but the goal is to straight ask you for something for free. And what I notice is again this idea that they believe that if they put you on the spot, ideally on top of that in front of people, you will cave. You will not say no. And I have to admit, I did cave a few times with the book. I don't give products because again, it's expensive and I don't have massive margin to dole out products to everyone. But also people I talk to, they can afford it. So I'm like, F you, like let's not pretend that you cannot buy a $20 book or $100 product, like it's like, come on. Um, but like I really resent myself, I would say, for caving in because well, it's not necessarily for the financial loss, which is real, but it's really for giving in to bullies. Or worst case scenario, bullies, maybe best case scenario, selfish and unaware people. But in any case, you know, people don't go to a restaurant and ask for a free meal. They don't go to the hairdresser and ask for a free haircut. They don't go to Costco and take toilet paper. So why on freaking earth are you, like considering normal asking for someone for a free book, free products, or free coaching, free. Hey, I had a person recently that was a joke. She was an entrepreneur, very wealthy family. She asked me for free coaching, like straight. And when I turned it down, she didn't even answer to me. I had spent already an hour with her on the phone in the previous weeks, and I was just like, wow. And the most interesting thing is that we have a lot of people in common. I'm like, would you risk your reputation for that? But visibly, yes. It's just, I mean, for me, it's just insanity. I really have a lot of difficulty on just understand it. And you're going back again to what I was talking about earlier, that free stuff mindset. You know, who cares? It's worth a try. It's free stuff, like no shame, no, if I can get something from you, I'm going to do it. So that's something as an entrepreneur, you need to be on the lookout. And so hopefully this edition made you laugh, maybe it makes you squirm, maybe hopefully it alerted you to the real dangers of entrepreneurship. Again, if you recognize yourself as an offender, I'm crossing your fingers now that you will be on your best behavior, and maybe you don't be on your best behavior because you're suddenly a kind and ethical, but maybe because you realize that it's showing. People can actually saw it. So, and again, I'm so glad I started microdosing because it really helps me see through the bullshit. I have actually a couple of videos on that and establish much stronger boundaries. So I would say as an entrepreneur and maybe as a human being, I don't know, I find it very more obvious as an entrepreneur because you're trying to build something. You are constantly bombarded, and I'm air quoting, with opportunities. And these are opportunities to actually be taken advantage of. And thank God now, I see the bullshit. I have strong boundaries. Otherwise, I'll already be out of business. And that's something you really, really need to be mindful for yourself, whether you're a solopreneur, early stage entrepreneur, or maybe you've been doing that for a while and it's not really taking off. So, but again, on that journey, you're also going to meet incredible people and have unbelievable support from your family, your friends, friendly contacts, people who get out of their way to make introductions, promote your content, promote your services, share everything you're doing. And it is very heartwarming. Again, I'm really referring to first what's funny, but also what is probably more important to keep an eye on. But at the same time, also look at all these wonderful people who are supporting you, who are kind to you, and your faithful clients. I mean, that's important, you know. And I'm not naive. I absolutely understand. People focus first on themselves. The marriage that's not working, the career that's not working, the health that's not great. It doesn't leave them a lot of room, but for their own problems. Other people are more predatories, and they're really doing it on purpose. Other people are insecure, putting you down, give them a 5-minute jolt of self-confidence. And some people are just totally immature and not self-aware. So not everything is coming from a prepared place of predation. But at the end of the day, the hell is paved with good intentions. Someone who's totally mature can still, fuck you. So, all of this to say that when you're an entrepreneur, which is an incredible endeavor, you're gonna feel pressure coming from all directions. And this is when your value system, your beliefs, your relationships, as well as your financials will be tested like never before. And I mean, it's a basic law of physics. When pressure is applied, things bend, they break. Sometimes they also become a diamond. And in the last couple of years, for me, with the microdose diet, I've learned so much about business. Even if I was already, as I say, a VC before, the fact that I'm in a very fringe area as well is probably bringing more challenges. But I learn as well tremendously about myself and about others, and I've shed a lot of my naivety. I build up confidence, I build up resilience, I build up, assertiveness. Again, I sincerely, sincerely believe that microdosing has tremendously helped me with that, and the protocol, tapping, journaling that I explain in the book, that has tremendously helped me. Like otherwise, I don't think I'll still be doing what I'm doing. And no, also, like some people, I know that I should avoid. Some people maybe see them in very limited dose, and some I should embrace. And not because they supported my business. That's not what I'm referring to. It's not someone buy my $20 book that suddenly they're my best friend, but it's because people show their true color. And I would rather have someone who has no interest in my business, but who's not like backstabbing me. That's someone who pretends to buy my book and then is complaining behind my back that, oh, they felt pressure to buy my book because as a friend, they felt there was an expectation, despite the fact that I spent tons of money on them, on restaurant and entertainment. But that's another story. So it is a very steep learning curve, and it is, I mean, very similar to the steep learning curve you will have if you face disease, the death of a loved one, you're being fired, maybe you're divorcing, apply enough pressure on anything and the truth is coming out for better or for worse. In entrepreneurship, it's 100% pressure. So I've chosen to see all of that as positive, starting to say no, starting to right sizing my inner and outer circle. So again, there's a lot of personal development that comes from professional growth and launching a business. And I hope you really enjoyed this edition. It's a bit different. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm going to be honest with you. At the same time, I patted myself on the shoulder quite a bit, looking at all the opportunities I had to get fucked or taken advantage of that I actually saw and turned down. Made me feel better. Some of them I didn't see and didn't turn out. That will be better next time. So, and it was interesting when I wrote there, like one or two people were like, "Oh my God, you're in 5 different sections." Okay, I really need to make sure you're never ever gonna enter my sphere anymore. So I really, really wish you a lot of luck. and success as an entrepreneur. I would love to hear your stories because I found it very funny. So please share your stories and its engagement. Don't forget to like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. But I hope you enjoy it. And I hope, again, it's going to help you open your eyes on the fact that you're not doing anything wrong. It is, unfortunately, the way things are done. Thank you so much and have a great day. Take care.